Be sure to subscribe and click on the bell for notifications on future uploads. How's it going? Someone Bard here, or you can call me Sully. Well, it's been a while since I've done a new movie review of films that I saw in theaters, and so I'll be continuing that tradition, but in a much different way. Yes, I'll be taking a look at 5, maybe 6 movies that were released in the past month and in theaters. Now, to avoid spoilers, and to keep things short, I'm not going to address the stories of all of them. I might address a little bit of them here and there, but for now, it's just going to be my opinions and my thoughts on all of them. And today, there's going to be 6 of them that were released in May 2022. Beginning with the first one that was released on May 6, 2022. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Director Sam Raimi has done a fine job of making a Doctor Strange sequel with okay characters, a fine story, and cool effects. It does contain references to one Marvel TV series on Disney+, which I haven't seen, and it may be a requirement since they're only given the bare-bone explanation here. Yet there are neat cameos in this, and they're given the proper time, the humor is nice and occasionally funny, the action is decent, and where the other MCU films felt like they're all part of the same universe, this film felt like a Sam Raimi movie within the MCU, featuring some dark humor, gruesome deaths, a horror-like atmosphere, various camera shots, creative effects, and a Bruce Campbell cameo. But overall, it's just okay, with the only disadvantages being the Marvel shows becoming canon to the films, and not quite being as good as the other Raimi films. And with me not being an MCU fan, that's saying something. 2.5+ stars. Our next movie, released on May 13th, 2022, is based on a classic Stephen King novel, which I never read, and this film didn't quite help as much. FireStarter. Director Keith Thomas has done an okay job of bringing the Stephen King novel to the screen, with fine characters, an okay story, and okay effects. While I never read the book or seen the original 1984 film, I will say that this is simple in its narrative, has some nice kills, usually with fire, and has some neat music done by 3 composers, one of which being John Carpenter. Though in some ways, I wish it went all out as it wasn't scary or thrilling, even with it ending on a somewhat positive yet unsuring note. And that's really all I have to say on the matter. 2.5 mixed stars. The next film I'm taking a look at is a sequel to the 2019 film that I found to be okay, but this one I found to be more than okay. Released on May 20th, 2022, this one is called Downton Abbey, A New Era. Director Simon Curtis has made a fine sequel to the 2019 film that's based on a Carnival TV series by Julian Fellows, with fine characters, a decent story, and okay effects when needed. Though I never seen the show, I have seen the first movie, which, while alright for the interactions of Maggie Smith and Imelda Staunton, is quite boring as it juggles various side plots with the main plot of the King and Queen of England visiting the Abbey, and it feeling longer than it is. Yet with this one, while having less side plots, felt more confined in its main plot, and is as long as it is, as well as having more humor involved and an interesting look into filmmaking of the late 1920s in England. Yet a side plot involving one character's past and the mystery around it seems like a bit much, and what happens to that one character in the end felt so wrong given their last line and the scenes afterwards. But overall, it's passable for all the good stuff that happens, and I wasn't bored by it. Even though the final moments felt off and I couldn't get behind its one mystery, this sequel is a nearly decent one. 2.5+ stars. And now we come to another sequel that's released on May 27, 2022, which is a sequel to a 1986 Tom Cruise classic, Top Gun: Maverick. Director Joseph Kosinski has done an exceptional job of making a Top Gun sequel with okay characters, an alright story, and decent effects. But with it being a different plot from the first film, it also has the same story beats as the original film, right down to using similar shots and a recreation of the opening credits with the same song. It went the same way that Space Jam: A New Legacy did last summer. Yet where I really enjoyed that one as it improves everything from the original, which I like but not as much, this sequel has a better narrative and a set goal in mind, but it's to a film that I don't like as much, for its bland characters and boring setup, with the only things it has going for is a fun soundtrack and okay action. So in a sense, this is better than the original film, for its higher action and more decent story and characters overall. But using the same story structure, almost being shot for shot, and a sequel to a film that I'm not a fan of, is what kind of ruined it for me. And I can only conclude by saying that it's not a bad film at all. It's just not my cup of tea. 2.5 mixed stars. And now we come to an original film from the director of Ex Machina, and it's pretty odd and weird. Released on May 20th, 2022, it is simply titled Men. Director Alex Garland has done an odd job of making a horror drama with okay characters, a bizarre setup, and neat yet disturbing effects. While it does use many metaphors throughout, and even presents a story of forgiveness through the most disturbing and occasionally creepy ways possible, and sometimes clever in a few cases, it doesn't quite help that it couldn't get into it as much as critics or some audiences did. The film just felt weird and bizarre in what it's doing, and it's effective and meaningful in places, yet as much as I got what's happening and understand it to an extent, I didn't enjoy it enough. 2.5 mixed stars. And the final one I'll be taking a look at, also released on May 27, 2022, is based on a series that I'd never seen, and I don't think I will based on the film that I saw. The Bob's Burgers movie. Directors Lauren Bouchard and Bernard Derriman have made an odd and awkward movie based on the Fox TV series Bob's Burgers, created by Lauren Bouchard, which I never seen an episode of and only heard good things about. But going on this movie alone didn't help me as much, as the characters are odd, the story isn't much, and the animation, while decent, is a bit off-putting. Most of the characters have one expression, the dialogue happens too often and is too rushed, none of the jokes made me laugh, except for a slight smirk at a visual gag and maybe one line, and it being a small musical with only 4 songs didn't make it memorable enough and is not presented big enough, which is what this whole film needed to be. Say what you will about the Simpsons movie, but it was wholly entertaining by having a much bigger story on a much grander scale, allowed more time to invest in the characters and have the jokes and dialogue flow more naturally, not to mention being funnier, has a definite level of fun and charm, and was based on a show that I've watched since a kid and still continue to this day. But this film just felt like nothing, and it didn't grab me into wanting to see it again, or wanting to watch the show like I did with Teen Titans Go. It's awkward, unfunny, too dialogue heavy and rushed with them, and not big enough to be considered entertaining or fun. 2.5 minus stars. And that is it. So thank you for joining me. Like, comment, subscribe, follow me on Facebook or Twitter, support me on Patreon, and until next time, for a new video.